Whenever and wherever one is the world, the next generation is our future. We were all the next generation once, and we can look back and know that it is when the next generation dreams of a new era and bravely take that first step forward that the new world begins. And today, we stand at the front of the digital transformation. We are living in a world we have never experienced before. Today, the next generation in the United Kingdom is showing a diverse and profound interest in Korea. The digital realm, there is no barriers to connection. In 2019, BTS Map of the Soul Persona album was released. With its track Boy With Love, it provided great comfort to many during the pandemic. In 2020, when extraordinary global lockdown occurred, people worldwide enjoyed Korean culture through digital platforms. As a result, in 2021, we witnessed the introduction of 26 Korean words into Oxford English Dictionary, evidence to this cultural engagement. You can see these 26 words in this exhibition. During the state visit in last year, 2023, Blackpink headlined at Hyde Park, uniting the European girls with a new image of girl food. Thus, the culture serves as comfort in difficult times and joy in happy times. Undoubtedly, Korean culture is at the front of the leading in a new era in the digital transformation. Now, we hope this moment becomes a time for us to imagine a new future together, united by the incredible power of our culture and artistic change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Now I would like to officially launch our first session by inviting tonight's very special guests to the stage. Before I introduce them to the stage, I will introduce one by one. Today in this talk, Hallyu, What's Next? We will explore the influence of Hallyu and its success cases from cultural, economic, social, and diplomatic perspectives. The talk will be moderated by Ms. Sumin Hwang, a media consultant and former BBC Korean service. And the first speaker will be Mr. Sang Hoon Seok, a KF Indo-Pacific Visiting Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute and former diplomat of Republic of Korea. Next, Ms. Judy Ju, the CEO of Korean cuisine restaurant Soulbird and the author of the cookbook Korean will be our second speaker. The third speaker will be Mr. Jong-hwan Bae, a portfolio management associate at DWS Group. And last but not least, Ms. Lee Yoon Lee, a senior journalist at BBC, will join us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a warm applause and please be to the stage. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sumin. It's my privilege to be here and join with you and share, getting a deep dive into how Hallyu has affected our various aspects of our society. I came here when I was 12 years old in 1998. And when I first got here, I would often get people asking me, where are you from? Are you from China? Are you from Japan? And I say, no. And they'll go, then where are you from? I go, from Korea. And what I would get is, what's that? Not even where is that? It was, what's that? And a lot of things have changed since then. South Korea has gone from having a financial crisis in 1997 to being one of the world's leading exporter of culture globally. We find K-wave in various aspects of our society, from food, games, TV dramas and films, and I could go on and on and on. Tonight, we are joined by leading industry experts to share with us their experiences and insight into their industries. First, we welcome Mr. Sang Hoon-seok. Sang Hoon-seok is currently the Korea Foundation Indo-Pacific Visiting Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute in London. And previously, he served as a diplomat for over 10 years, dealing with various regions and issues, including postings to Abuja and London. His current research interests mainly cover security issues with a regional focus on the Indo-Pacific region. The floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you for the introduction. My name is Sang-hoon, and until recently, I served as a career diplomat for slightly over 10 years. And it's a great privilege to have this opportunity to stand in front of you to talk about Hallyu. So today, I'm going to talk about public diplomacy because that is the most relevant aspect of my job as a career diplomat. And when it comes to today's topic, Hallyu. So let me begin by sharing a constant question mark that I always had when I was a career diplomat. That is a constant contradiction between culture and diplomacy. Why? Because diplomacy is mainly an act of state that is intended to promote national interest, and that is often defined by power. And power by nature is to force somebody to do something or not to do something according to your preferences. However, when it comes to culture, it is very different. It drives on its own attractiveness, and it's more persuasive, and it's not enforcing. But at the same time, some people started to recognize a possibility that this cultural attractiveness can be turned into state resource. And that is where public diplomacy comes in. It is a tool that is developed and invented to transform this different kind of power into actual state power. But when you practice public diplomacy as a practitioner in the field, I always felt these dilemmas, which is when I try to focus too much on my government jobs to promote my national interest, the program suddenly becomes totally uninteresting, and it even sometimes becomes a state propaganda, which is horrible. On the other hand, if you try to stay too far away from the original goal of your government job, and then it becomes totally irrelevant from the perspective of taxpayers. So the question I always had is how to reconcile this inherent contradiction between the two values. So with this question in mind, I'm going to share two of the experiences that I chose when I was in the ministry, and we will come back to this question later in this presentation. So this first case is when I was in Nigeria. It was ambassador's taekwondo competition, and I attended the event, not as an athlete, obviously, and as a ambassador's deputy and his representative. This is amazing because taekwondo is not a government-led project in Nigeria. It is self-grown, and it was really amazing to see local athletes sharpening their skills. And it is really exciting, especially given the fact that the history of exchanges between the two countries are relatively short. So in this case, culture works as a bridge to connect people and communities. And let me go to the case number 2. This is pretty different from the first case. This was when I was at the headquarters and a division called ROK US Security Cooperation Division. As its name suggests, the division basically deals with military and alliance-related issues, which is regarded as traditionally regarded as high politics. But even in the realm of high politics, public diplomacy is there. For instance, we launched a supporters group joined by Korean nationals and US Forces Korea service members and their families, and they were engaging in various activities, including cultural sectors. And as you can see in the middle, we also had a quiz competition that was about two countries' cultures and histories. And we could invite 2 finalists of the quiz competition to MOFA building. So these are the 2 cases that I chose to introduce to you, because I think this shows that public diplomacy has become such an integral part of Korea's diplomacy, because the 2 cases are pretty different in that the first case was done at a mission, and the other one at the headquarters. And at the same time, the first one was a more of self-grown and indigenous one. And this case, this is a government-led initiative that is clearly aimed to strengthen the alliance. So it's not a surprise that Korea now has a Public Diplomacy Act, which was initially enacted back in 2016, and it provides definitions and some basic principles of our public diplomacy efforts. And MOFA also have this basic plan to promote public diplomacy that will be applied for the next 4 years. So if you are interested in, you can find more information about this initiative in MOFA official website, and they also cover Hallyu in category 2 of the plan. So now I have shared some of my experiences that I thought relevant, and now you have an idea of how public diplomacy is perceived and practiced in the Korean government. Now let's go back to the original question of how to reconcile these 2 contradicting values. So I thought about it, although I'm not an expert. So I have 3 suggestions, which is first one is facilitation. Government officials, including myself, whom I was, is not the most creative creator of something. So the government, I think, can serve better as a facilitator than a creator of content. That is one thing. And the second point is convergence with local culture and mingling between Korean culture and local culture. This is because although Korean culture recently gained some popularity on the global stage, but at the same time, some people criticize us for too aggressive promotion of Korean culture. So do you know kimchi, or do you know dokdo? Those questions represent that kind of criticism, and it shows some fatigue that critics of Korean culture feel. In order to maintain and ensure the sustainability of the Korean culture on global stage, I think it needs to be accepted and enjoyed by wider audiences. And in order to do that, I think we need to work with local artists and create something that is a mixture, a good mixture, an amalgam of Korean and local culture. And third one is messaging. Korea, in its public diplomacy efforts, have been very much focused on Korea's past success in terms of economic growth and political democratization. Whenever I was doing any project in public diplomacy, we always had that message. That is a great achievement, but at the same time, if we can add more future-oriented message about common future and shared goals and shared values with other countries, I think that message can be more appealing. So in conclusion, I'm not an expert of culture, so I'm not here to provide definitive answers to some of the great questions you might have, but I hope I provided some a starting ground to initiate our further discussions today. And in summary, I would say I hope to see that Korea's public diplomacy evolves into something more of a dialogue than a monologue. And that concludes my presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Big thank you to Sang-eun for sharing his thought-provoking points on Hallyu in politics and diplomacy. Next up, we have Judy Ju. Judy is a chef, restaurateur, writer, entrepreneur, and a television personality. She hosted a TV series called Korean Food Made Simple, claimed the title of the first female Iron Chef in the UK and the second worldwide, worked in Gordon Ramsay's restaurants, as well as staging in Heston Blumenthal's, Thomas Keller's, and many other notable restaurants that you would have already heard of, opened restaurants Jinju and Soulbird in London, and she holds an engineering degree and a career on Wall Street prior to her colorful career in food. So we welcome to the stage Judy Ju.
Good. Hi, everyone. Friday night at the KCC. Thank you, everyone, for coming on out. It's a true honor to be here. I just wanted to say thank you so much, especially to Director Sun and Minister Kim for having me in the KCC. And thank you, everybody here, for coming to spend your Friday evening with us tonight. There we go. Oh, I have to press things for the titles to come up. Okay. So my talk's not nearly as technical. So, because I'm just talking about food, which is somewhat fun. But I've been, waving the Korean flag for all the Korean flavors for almost over a decade now. And I've been trying to get Korean food to go global. And there are certain things that I have learned that I think make Korean cuisine so incredibly special. And I think it really deserves a space up there with the great cuisines of the world, that being Mexican, Italian, French, and Chinese. So I think that Korean cuisine should definitely be there also. In the fundamental kind of bearings of Korean cuisine is this idea of obangsek. Now that is the rule of five. Now this rule of five actually permeates throughout Korean culture and history, and it goes everywhere. But in food, it is the basis that all of Korean meals should have. This feedback. It should have the 5 flavors, the 5 colors, and the 5 textures. And this really is grounded in the fact that they believe, and we believe, that food is medicine. And if you eat great variety, you will get all of your nutrients, your vitamins, and your minerals in every single meal. I have a picture of a very famous dish here. Does anybody know what that is? What is that? Bibimbap, right? So bibimbap kind of epitomizes this idea of the rule of 5. So you have many different vegetables. They're all cooked in different ways. Some things are raw, some things are steamed, some things are sauteed, pickled, fermented. You have some beef, etc. So you have lots of variety, and then you have steamed rice underneath there. So you're getting so many different textures and flavors and colors all in one dish. And even things like kimchi are said to have the 5 flavors all in one, because it is salty, bitter, sour, sweet, and spicy all in one bite. So kimchi is also something that is grounded and one of the cornerstones of Korean cuisine. And I also think that that's what makes Korean cuisine so incredibly special, is that it is really, really founded on this idea of fermentation. Fermentation is really, really popular right now, especially during the pandemic. Everybody was making sourdough, kombucha, kefir, everything, and also kimchi. So kimchi is most described as a spicy form of sauerkraut. It is actually an umbrella term for over 100 different types of official varieties of kimchi that are out there. You can actually kimchi anything, any fruit or vegetable that will stand up to the fermentation process. But most commonly, when we say kimchi, it refers to this here, which is a spicy fermented cabbage. Now, fermentation is not just used in kimchi. We have something called gochujang, which is a fermented chili paste, and doenjang, which is a fermented soybean paste, and also things like gochujang or also soy sauce, like shike or makgeolli are also fermented. But it gives our food this amazing flavor, this umami, this punch. It hits you in the face. There's nothing apologetic about Korean flavors, which is why I think people love it so incredibly much. And it's also quite memorable. It's vibrant also in color, and it's just so incredibly tasty. Has an addictive quality. That's what umami means. And it's also very good for you. Kimchi is a superfood. Anything fermented, as you know, heals your gut. And if your gut is healthy, you are healthy. Your immune system is located in your gut. And actually, your gut health is also more and more linked to mental health. So if you eat kimchi, you won't get fat, you won't get sick, and you'll also be happy. And another thing that I think that makes Korean food so incredibly unique is the way that we eat, the hanshik table. So in the background here, and it's faded, you'll see a traditional hanshik table. Now, whenever I bring some of my Western friends or non-Korean friends who have never been to a proper Korean restaurant, there's this mixture of surprise and wonder and sometimes a little bit of fear when everything just starts coming out, because you get all this banchan, these little side dishes, and it's free. And there's like, oh, wait, we didn't order this. What's this? What's this? No, we're going to charge it. I'm like, no, it's free. It comes. It is part of the generosity of the Korean table. And there's wide variety. Again, this is the rule of 5, right? So you get so many different things, and it covers the land, the sea, vegetables, and so many different types of preparation also. You can see all of the different colors. And this way of eating is uniquely Korean. So if you think about it, Korea is positioned in between China on the west and Japan on the east. The way the Chinese eat, right? big lazy Susan, sometimes lots of big dishes that everybody shares. And we also in China, and when you go to a Chinese restaurant, use long chopsticks because you have to reach. To the east of us is Japan. You think about a bento box, which is lots of little dishes, but they're just for you. So short chopsticks. In the middle is Korea, lots of little dishes that we all share, medium-sized chopsticks. So we are in the middle, and the way we eat and the length of our chopsticks, and that is also what makes the hanshik table so incredibly fun. It's also very fun because usually there's a grill in the center of the table, and you get to cook your own food. Who doesn't love that? So it's convivial, it's interactive, it's like entertainment. The next day, all of this stuff. So it's quite fun. So I think that this hanshik table is one of the unique things about Korean food also. Also, I love the fact that you can tailor make or bespoke every single bite. When you eat barbecue, for instance, you can have a cool lettuce leaf, you can put some steamed rice on top, you can put some samjang or spicy sauce, and then some, some savory meat, and then some kimchi on top, and wrap it all up and eat it. Your next bite, you can just eat the meat. The next bite, you can just eat the vegetables. So it is such a fun way to eat. You never have FOMO, feeling of left out, right? Because there's so many different things on the table, and it's for everyone to share. There is also great variety and diversity of the cuisine, okay? So Korea is a peninsula, and we are harvesting from every corner of the country and every corner of the sea. Every single time I go back to Korea, I am finding something that I've never seen, heard of, or eaten anything before. There's always something to discover. Mountain vegetables, root vegetables, we're harvesting from the sea, the valley, fields, and everything. And plus, on top of that, there's so many different regional specialties. The food in Seoul and in the north is very different from the food in the south. My father's originally from North Korea, so the things that my father likes to eat is very different from what my mom, where she grew up near Seoul, likes to eat. And then my other relatives who are down in the Jeollado region like things very funky, very spicy, very strong. So that's a very different way of eating too. I also love the fact that you can go very high end and have 3 Michelin star dining experiences that are extremely luxurious, extremely proper. And then you could go down and dirty and eat on the street and go cheap and cheerful. So I think that's incredibly fun too. Also, the other interesting thing about Korea is that the history of the country is reflected in the food. And I feel that this is true for so many different countries. You look at the food, you will learn the history of the country. It tells the story of war, occupation, recession, etc. And this is why Korea, to this day, still loves Spam. Even the history of Korean fried chicken can be traced back to the tradition of American GIs who brought their soul food, SOUL food, to Korea. Same with the Korean corn dogs, etc. There are so many things that came over to Korea. And even during all of the shortages of rice, that's why we have wheat noodles in a lot of the soups. So the history of Korea's checkered history of war, feast, famine, etc., is really reflected in the food. And it's extremely interesting. And I love the fact that we still love Spam in Korea. It's a luxury item, so don't shun it, right? It's also one of the great fusion cuisines. And what I mean by that is that you can take a dollop of gochujang and throw it into hummus and it tastes great. You can throw it into spaghetti sauce for your spag bowl and it tastes awesome. You can take kimchi, throw it on top of a hamburger, throw it on top of a jacket potato, put it in a taco, and it tastes amazing. It is truly a versatile cuisine. And that's because it is also craveable. It is so delicious. Now, we're talking about the Hallyu wave here, so I thought that I would just talk a little bit about how the Hallyu wave has impacted me as a chef, me and my job, et cetera, and what the drivers are around it. So Sun touched on this a little bit about how when you first moved here, I was like, what is Korea? Okay, so in my generation, I have gone from being embarrassed about my lunchbox and like begging my mom just to pack me ham and cheese sandwiches to now people just bombarding me on my social media about like, what is that? What are they drinking? What are they doing? And it's this weird kind of cultural voyeurism. I think it's fantastic, but it's a little bit creepy, a little bit, I'm like, gosh, I've gone from like literally being like, I want to like not be Korean to now it's like, everybody wants a piece of you, and you're almost cooler if you're Korean now. It's kind of a funny thing. And this, of course, is being driven by K-pop, Korean dramas, and Korean beauty. This is all part of the Hallyu wave, and it's a real thing. And it is showing up in numbers. These are billion-dollar industries. And when you're talking about even Korean dramas are translated into over 90 different languages around the world. And there's this whole subculture of people who are volunteers who translate them into even more different languages around the world because they just want to spread the love of Korean dramas to small Pacific Islands and places like this who don't have the right subtitles. But you can even see the growth in numbers, or 90% growth in Korean cuisine interest from 2021 to 2022. And Korean cuisine was the 5th most popular ethnic cuisine Googled in 2022. And for me personally, I've been seeing this and been very lucky because I've been able to cook Korean food all over the world. Now, I would not have been able to do this about 10 years ago, but I've literally gone from Switzerland to Tel Aviv, to Hong Kong, to Thailand, to Italy, to all these corners in the Maldives, all these corners of the world cooking Korean cuisine because there is a demand for it. People are so incredibly curious. They've tried it. They're hearing about it. It's on trend. It's zeitgeist. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I don't think that this is a blip. I think this is turning more into a cultural phenomenon, and we're just going to see it spread and spread and spread and spread and go further. And this is kind of where I talk about a little bit about authenticity and how Korean food goes global. I can consider it a success when somebody in Yorkshire or Liverpool takes that dollop of gochujang and throws it into something else. I don't think you have to be 100% authentic for the cuisine to go global. So I just want everybody to try a splash of Korea on whatever they're making themselves for dinner. And it doesn't matter what it is, and just try it. So here I've got a few fusion dishes. I've chosen desserts just for visual things, but frozen yogurt. So that's makgeolli, our fermented wine. I have a seaweed shortbread. Everybody loves shortbread here. That's made of kim. So good. I serve that at many, many different events. And then here I have a yujacha, and it's a posset, which is a very popular English dessert. So you can become creative, use Korean flavors in all different ways. Put that dollop of gochujang in anything that they're making. A little bit of kimchi, you can kimchify it, and it will taste better. Just try it. So yeah, that's how the Hallyu wave is going to go global. And if you want to come to Solberg, you can, of course, come to Solberg as well. So thank you very much, everyone.
Well, thank you, Judy. I think your talk has made us all very, very hungry. Next, we are welcoming Jonghwan Bae to talk about Hallyu in business. DW is one of the world's leading asset management company, and previously he served as an investment analyst in London and Canada. So over to you, Jonghwan.
Before I start, I will try kimchi with fish and chips. I hope I didn't offend any British people here. So yeah, my name is John. I lived abroad more than half of my life, and as everyone noticed, my first interaction, I couldn't speak any English, and my first I lived in Vancouver about 10 years. The first question I got asked was, okay, you're Chinese or Japanese? I definitely experienced that. And then if in case they're lucky to know Korea, the question would be, are you from North or South? And my answer would be, that depends on how you treat me. I can be badass or good. I have first of all, this photo. Does anyone know where this might be, this island? Exactly, yeah. It's incredible how things different there. South Korea went through Korean War, went through Japanese people, had a lot of issues and things like that. Even nowadays, it's just incredible, like the same country, same people. What happened, right? That's why I'm here. And exactly, that's what I do every day. The reason why I'm here is I'm a bridge between South Korean investors and European real estate investors. So here I help Korean investors to invest across Europe, UK, mostly Western Europe, but also including Poland as well. This is a bit boring stuff, but they're not BTS. I'm sorry. Please don't sue me. I love BTS. the colors are quite old and classic. They're all old school people, but you know they have there are a lot of talks about them. But, you know, but what we know for sure on the bottom in black and white colors, they have done such an incredible thing. In a good meaning or bad meaning, you guys can look up. But what they did for sure was the previous photos. We did made a lot of money by selling cars, selling semiconductor. That's like our like first generation, because even my father always tell me that he didn't have food to eat. He's a baby boomer. He was born in 1958. And he couldn't go to school. And most of the people on the bottom, yeah, they didn't have money. So they, especially in the middle, the Jung Ju-young, he made the Hyundai Group, and he literally came to UK to Barclay and say, "Hey, I want to build a shipyard. We never built in our life. We don't have a customer. We only have empty land. Can you invest?" And they did somehow. And they did the incredible thing. The Jim Yong Kim, he was a former president of World Bank. He saw all the documents inside the World Bank, and everyone said, South Korea, they are poorer than Kenya. How can they be one of the richest country in the world? So they think it's impossible almost to be rich. But from this first generation, now we moved on to another generation. They are all, I bet nobody would know, but they are all technology. So from old school, selling cars, selling clothes, selling rice, and now we are selling digitals and technology. They made the Kakao Talk, which some of them might know. All the Koreans use the messaging app. They're also part of the Naver. On the far on the right, he made the pharmaceutical company, and they are all billionaire, and they're one of the richest people in South Korea. And then we go into the entertainment. So, you know, nobody might not know, but these are the backbone of all the K-pop groups that everybody talked about nowadays. On the left, JYP. In the middle, SM, HYBE, like BTS group, and on the right, the YG Entertainment, and you know their net worth is just incredible. Of course, it fluctuates, but you know, and this is only like publicized number, and God knows how you know what kind of underneath subsidiaries they have, or indirectly invest or entertainment industry all around the world. And recently, I think the Saudi Arabian king visited South Korea to sign the contract to help them to build one of the entertainment empire all around the world with their culture. It's our a Big Four entertainment company that we just mentioned. You know, their growth is incredible. Like, I mean, I don't want to go down too deep today, but it's just unbelievable how fast they are growing. And also cultural contents export is a US $1 billion. In 2021, it's a 12 billion. So it is growing. And also Netflix. Every time I walk in my office, one of my friends always asks, "Hey, did you watch this on Netflix?" And some of them I did, but I think most of the users now can access easily. In the older days, it's almost impossible to look at like, hey, I want to look up like local Korean drama and movie. How are you gonna find? But now with the click of on the app or on the computer, anyone can access to incredible culture that Korean also, you know, it's in the hybrid of Western country and Eastern country, because you know we are so open to the other Western countries, and there are so many foreigners. So we have an incredibly unique experience as a Korean towards looking at the Westernized value and how we believe and how we interpret things might be very interesting for other people. That's why I think it's growing so fast. And the technology has really helped a lot. So I think a lot of large conglomerate, all of them are old school, but the BTS, like they alone is already on a major part of the GDP of entire country, which is impossible. If you tell me BTS, I think they will lead one of the GDP of South Korea, people would say, I'm just going crazy and I'm like, you're on drug. Like, yeah, I think they will definitely. So the industry has been growing exponentially. So anybody who has invested South Korea entertainment industry and bought some shares, congrats, good for you. They went up crazy, like they're like almost Bitcoin. Now I think next step they need to really do is just big companies, they just need to let creative artists and young professionals to do their job. So they will just create this platform of these cultural centers, and they also collaborate with Samsung. So they made the CGI a lot easier, and they make the studio so that anyone can use it and distribute their ideas all around the world. And I think this is my last slide. I think it's just incredibly humble to be here with everyone in front of me. And I think the country will continue to grow. And I'm humbly, showing this. And in the end, I think we will, South Korean economy will be a bridge continuously between the East country and Western countries. And I believe that I hope to be, I'm one of the bridge as well. So thank you so much. And if you have any question, please reach out.
Thank you very much for your insight. I think it really brings to scale how much global impact Hallyu is having at the moment on business and economy. Last but not least, we welcome Julie Lee. I personally had the privilege of working with her at the Korean service at the BBC in the last 6 years. She's an award-winning journalist with over 12 years of experience in journalism. She's renowned for bringing fresh perspective and insight into stories about the Korean Peninsula, covering wide range of topics such as social affairs and the rise of Korean culture. She has also served as one of the cohorts of the BBC's Next Generation Committee in 2022 and advised the BBC's Executive Committee and senior management. Please welcome Julie.
Okay, thank you so much for this lovely introduction. So as introduced, my name is Julie, and I work for the BBC as a senior journalist. So as a journalist, we write and produce a story about the society we live in, and therefore storytelling is a big part of our job. So I know Hallyu is embracing a variety of cultural factors such as music, food, fashion, but today I'd like to talk about Hallyu and its future with the case of Korean content or Korean storytelling. So this is because I'm such a big fan of Korean films and dramas, just like the other people in this room, I guess. And I even made a documentary about Korean drama with two of my wonderful colleagues at the BBC who are also very obsessed with Korean content. So first, okay, let me talk about Hallyu from my personal perspective. So I was born and raised in Korea my entire life, actually, but moved to London about 5 years ago. And I found myself so lucky to be living in London at this historic juncture of the Korean wave because I could witness firsthand this exceptional success of Hallyu. So I was here when BTS was nominated for a Grammy, and I was here when Parasite made Oscars history. I was also here when Squid Game was breaking records on Netflix. So as a journalist with regional expertise in Korea, whenever that happened, I got lots of on-air requests from various programs at the BBC. So basically, they want to know why people are so captivated by Korean music, film, and dramas and how it became so popular. So, okay, then what makes Korean content so special? Again, I'm talking about Korean films and dramas here. So I know there are so many factors, such as diverse themes, strong narrative, and dramatic moments. I can talk about this like forever, I believe me. So, but I think one of the key elements is how it captures the full spectrum of human emotions so effectively. Korean creators are excellent at portraying universal human experiences in a very delicate way. So whether it's a story about zombies or natural disasters, Korean content focuses on people. By diving into human psychology and bringing raw emotions to the forefront, Korean writers and filmmakers create stories that resonate with audiences from every corner of the world. And at the same time, it tackles important social issues with great ingenuity, such as social class inequality, school bullying, or maybe gender issues. So you can think about how Squid Game uses its intricate set design with those staircases and ladders to symbolize the competitive nature of society. And you can also think of how the film Parasite visualizes the stark inequality of Korean society through this contrasting image of different houses. So these are not just stories, I think, they are the reflections of our world, meticulously crafted to engage and provoke thoughts. And this, I believe, is what makes Korean content so compelling and so addictive. Then how this Korean wave affected our society, both nationally and internationally? Well, I think this remarkable success gave Korean people a great confidence in the power of their own culture, including myself, of course. And for other countries, observing this global phenomenon, it actually showcased the potential for their cultural influence to extend far and wide as well. So this is probably one of the reasons why so many scholars and institutions are now studying Korea's soft power and the success of the Korean wave. Even in my own experience within the media industry, I've been asked by so many producers and journalists about the secret behind this cultural movement. But I think the most important impact of the Korean wave on global society is how it has raised the level of cultural acceptance among people around the world. Traditionally, the global pop culture market was dominated by Western countries, particularly those speaking English, such as Hollywood. It was considered nearly impossible for non-English content to break through and become mainstream. But Korean content, I think, has managed to do that. Of course, with the help of global streaming platforms like Netflix or Disney+, more and more people are now enjoying Korean content and eager to learn about Korean culture and society. What was once loved mostly in Asian countries is now embraced across continents. This shift, I believe, illustrates that the cultural acceptance has broadened and Korean content has played a vital role in expanding people's view. So you may remember what Bong Joon-ho said when he accepted the Golden Globe for his film Parasite back in 2020. So once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films. I think this underscores the importance of diversity and open-mindedness, and I believe the success of Korean content has demonstrated the great potential for the industry to thrive by embracing diverse cultures. So it is now Korean wave, leading the charge, but this success can open the door for other parts of the world as well, because people are now more accepting and willing to explore new cultural content, more than ever, and this will make the landscape of global culture even richer and more inclusive. Then what's next? How can we make this wave more sustainable? Given that Hallyu is a spontaneous wave with a passionate global fandom, I think its sustainability also lies in the people who enjoy and love Korean culture. People around the world who grew up listening to K-pop music, watching Korean films and dramas, have now embraced this cultural movement, and it's this younger generation that can open the new chapter of Hallyu. Covering stories of Korean culture and society, I've met so many young people who fell in love with Korea like crazy. And what's interesting to me was that they have already gone beyond just being fans. For many, the Korean wave has become a life-changing event, and they're designing their futures around it because they want to play a part in the industry in every possible way. So in terms of the soft power, I would love to see the government or maybe related businesses invest more in nurturing the next generation of talent beyond just content and production. So we need to support these young dreamers who are inspired by Hallyu and want to contribute to its growth and evolution. Because in the end, it is this passionate, inspired individual who will keep the wave alive and thriving. So the Korean wave drives more and more people to travel to Korea to learn about its success stories, obviously. And I have no doubt that Korea can become the most powerful talent platform in the world, a center for creating new value and content. But to make sure that the Korean wave is not just a fad, we need to cultivate the next generation of global talent with a genuine love for Korea and its culture. Just as Korean storytelling has captured the hearts of the people through compelling human interest stories, the future strategy for a sustainable Hallyu also lies in the people. By investing in education and creating more opportunities for cultural exchange, we can help ensure that the Korean wave continues to inspire and innovate. I can confidently say the future of Hallyu is bright, but it's up to us to keep it shining. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie, for bringing such a rich context to Hallyu and its role in society. Now, I'd like to open up the floor to the audience for some questions. I'm sure you're bringing with a lot of questions. If you could hold your hands up, and our colleague will bring a mic to you. Gentleman over there.
Hi, so my question is about trying to increase industry. So obviously with Korea, a lot of people are aware of the cities of Seoul and Busan. And that's where a lot of the industry goes, and that's where a lot of the revenue is generated, a lot of the popularity with Korea is generated. My question is, for anybody on the panel, what do you think can be done to increase awareness, revenue, investment into these other cities that also have so much to offer in Korea?
Maybe on the business side, you could answer.
Yeah, does this working? Oh yeah, that's an excellent question, because that is one of the big issue in political world, probably, because those cities are actually dying. So I think by 2050, because there's no young generation living there, they will basically extinct. So I think a lot of South Korean government is trying to find a way to actually revive those cities. And as you exactly pointed out, we do need more entertainment and more cultural content so that people can go there and see. So I think in Japan, they have done some of the cities successfully. I think the city called Toyama, I think they introduced their own local food and local sceneries, and they revived those cities together with some infrastructure investment. And as a person, I also invest in real estate. It's really important to create some uniqueness, like, being a Korean trend is basically being yourself, right? Like, the Korean thing is the most international thing, I think, and especially the local economy. If they just try to mimic what other countries are doing or other people are doing, they will never be as good as them. So I think it is really important to understand like the deep history and trying to find something different so that people can enjoy and have fun, so that not only local people can go, but also anyone can to enjoy the city. But I guess there are other people.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe I can just, add up just briefly. So for example, I think in terms of the local kind of development, because I was just speaking about like a Korean contents, and I think Korean, dramas and VMs also can play a part in, thriving those kind of industry, because I know now these days, the Korean tourism market is, becoming really, really big. And if, like, for example, if there's some like a collaboration work in the local kind of offices, featuring those kind of places in Korean dramas and VMs, and probably that can drive more and more people from abroad. So probably, I think those kind of, things also, there's this kind of opportunity to collaborate in terms of the development of local kind of places.
Although I'm not representing Korean government anymore, but from the government perspective, I think government can act as a facilitator. Recently, I went back to Korea for a while and found out that on the television that there is a very talented artist who sings 정선아리랑. I didn't even know about that, even though I'm a Korean. So government can find out those talented people from different regions, as different regions have different items to offer, as Judy introduced, like amazing diversity of food across the country. So I think the government can play that kind of role.
Over there, please.
Hi there. Amazing presentations. Thank you all. I feel like Hallyu also puts a spotlight, obviously, in Korean culture and Korean politics. And I was wondering about this because obviously we do know that Korea is also known for being a very unequal country in terms of, women rights. The most unequal in the OECD, for example. And there are other issues that obviously a lot of people are looking at right now as they consume more and more Korean culture. So obviously Hallyu has an impact in the country itself as well, and in Koreans and how people perceive their own culture. So I think my question is, do you feel like the wish to keep Hallyu going is going to, or is already having an impact on how Koreans perceive themselves and their own culture in some issues? Case in point, women's rights, for example.
Start with Julie.
All right. I thought it was world of the politics, but anyway. Yes. Actually, I was talking about my, BBC documentary on Korean dramas, and it was also about like woman power, like and how this kind of Korean content portray the woman in a way. So I think a lot of Korean like dramas and films now portraying women in a quite different way from the past. Because for example, like in the past, the women are very not really active kind of figure in the dramas, but now those kind of women characters become much more stronger and very active in society as well. And this can, of course, this is a reflection of the real society at this moment, but also it can lead some changes in the Korean society as well. So this is really important, how we portray the women in those kind of women dramas is very important, because that can really affect the people's mindset and people's kind of mentality as well.
As Julie said in the presentation, some Korean cultural products and its content, really one of the biggest attractiveness of it is authenticity. And I really like an American TV drama, which is Newsroom. In the episode 1, it ends with the first step to solve an issue is to recognize there is one. And given the authenticity of the Korean cultural product, I think it has an effect of revealing social problems such as gender inequality and income inequality and things like that. So I think it has some effect to recognize our own problem and start from there. Thank you.
Got a question for Mr. Sok Sung-won. Thank you very much for your presentation. Sorry to put you on the spot. So obviously as a former diplomat, when you're organizing a public diplomacy function, you've got a certain element of horsepower. So in other words, like workforce and resources behind you. Do you have anything or any ideas that we as ordinary people can do to sort of contribute to public diplomacy?
Thank you for your question that is specifically designated to me. I think basically we really appreciate your support and interest in the Korean culture itself, because as we all discussed today, it is really important that we make the Korean cultural wave more reciprocal and mutual communication than one-way communication. And in a sense, your participation and enthusiasm means a lot. Thank you.
Hi, you spoke in the presentation about the impact of entertainment on Korea's GDP. There are quite a lot of huge artists who are currently doing their mandatory military service. I was just curious about the impact of that on Korea's economy and the Hallyu wave generally.
Jesus Christ. I think
Sorry.
it was one of the most heated topic of like BTS going to the military service, and like I think there was whole internet warfare. I think you know, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we have laws to follow, and we have rules, and but I mean, even if they are doing the military service, you know, there are different ways of impacting the business and still grow the entertainment. I'm not sure whether they do like mentorship program or any other the support they can do, maybe buy more stocks on the entertainment so that they have more money to train their trainees and have more opportunities for them to go abroad and get education and training necessary and bring in more foreign like artists, creative artists all around the world to South Korea, and we can have the in-depth discussion together. But yeah, I mean the impact will probably might not be the best. Don't quote me because I don't have that data, so I don't want to say anything specific. But I think going forward, they are one of the decades. But I hope that there will be another big groups or big other artists who can and be as big as or bigger than BTS.
I think there was a question from the lady in the front row.
Hi, yeah, I had one question around a lot of the entertainment industry that you've talked about today has historically had a large connection with youth, and obviously Korea is facing quite a serious kind of population challenge. Do you think that will have any impact on the sort of long-term sustainability of the entertainment industry?
Who'd like to take the question? I think we'll, unfortunately, I think we'll park that question. Sorry.
Maybe I can just, briefly. So, of course, as a journalist, I got a lot of questions from our, fellow journalists about the low birth rate kind of issue, because this was a really serious social problem in Korea. But I cannot really give a kind of solution to that one. But one thing that I mentioned in my presentation is because, so basically the future of the Hallyu, of course, lies in the people, but not what I mean by people, not just the local people in Korea. So basically this Korean wave is now embraced by wider audience and wider people around the world, not just in Korea. So which I think that really makes a difference. So basically the future of Hallyu is not just led by local Korean people, just like now, but it can be also led by other people around the world as well. So it's not just a local problem, I think. So we need to really ready to embrace those kind of diverse people as well, to grow our the Hallyu in the future. So I hope that can help.
Over there, please. And then we'll take the question to the back after this lady.
Hello, I know two of you, at least from my BBC time, Sumin and Julie. I'm just very interested because I read a bit about how Hallyu came about, and it seems a very interesting mix of government backing, private enterprise, and just like a machine that got on board with this. And Julie, you were talking about sort of, pushing it onto the next generation, investing in those young creatives so that we can move on. But looking at the structure of the music industry and the sort of star maker system, it doesn't seem that there's very much wriggle room for young creatives. It is a machine. And I think there is a concern that by being so productive, there's no creativity left in it. So you can make an amazing product, but where's the sort of offbeat stuff that lots of us really enjoy? So I wonder if that's a sort of concern that people talk about, or whether it just is genuinely very successful and they're not really worried.
About the part that the Korean government had contributed to the creation of the Korean cultural wave. Yeah, I thought about that issue as well, because every time I read an article like that, I was thinking like, can we really do that? Because when I was in the government, we of course created something to do public diplomacy, and at the same time, we might have had some systems to support artists, but I think it is attributable more to open and liberal social atmosphere that wasn't there in Korea back in the 1980s or before 1990s. Political democratization and more open society, I think, enabled kind of enabling environment for the growth of the Korean cultural wave. And of course, we did have some subsidies maybe, but at the same time, any government has that, but they do not have anything like Hallyu. So I think it should be found in passion and enthusiasm and creativity of the Korean artist. And maybe it can be in our genes, because according to the Chinese history books that were written something like 2000 years ago, Chinese described Korean as people who love to sing, dance, and drink. So maybe that can be one of the reasons why we are so successful in this industry.
Thank you. We had a question at the back, I think on the corner. No? Over there?
Hi, thank you for your talks. They were all very wonderful. I know tonight's theme is about Hallyu, which is the Korean projection of soft power internationally, but I wanted to flip the tables a bit and ask from a Korean perspective, what sort of opportunities or threats even the UK presents for Korean politics and economics in the future? Thank you.
Business maybe?
Sorry, can you please clarify your question again?
So I was wondering what sort of opportunities or threats the UK might present for Korea in the future in terms of economics, politics, or even culturally, any sort of aspect that you can think of. Because culture cuts both ways, right? It goes out and in.
That's a very good question, but very difficult to answer at the same time. So thinking about the UK, I'm going to speak some random things. When I was a high school student, one of the music that I really loved was Westlife and those UK bands like Spice Girls. So you can guess my age. So I think UK was such a country that was so fantastic and attractive to me when I was young, and it is still so. And I think that kind of cultural product in the UK could have been created by its democratic and open society. And now Korea has become more of so compared to what it was like in the past. So as open and creative societies, I think there is a great space for the two countries to cooperate. And we have seen some collaboration with Korean artists and British artists at the same time. Like, who was that? I cannot remember the name of the band, but there was definitely some collaborations going on. So that can be a case of example that I can think of. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, London, especially, it's such an important international hub all around the world. And I don't think Korean can be just successful leaving UK out. I think there are so many local artists in UK can collaborate with local Korean artists. Hopefully maybe this Korean Culture Center, some of you might collaborate and meet different people. It's important to keep communicating and give them opportunities. I guess for business, it would be really nice that if those bigger companies will step up and help those young future generation to have more opportunities to create something new. Even if you don't have money, or even if you are not from a rich family, anyone can be successful and by creating new ideas, and hope like government and private enterprises can create those platforms where anyone can be successful and have opportunities. Sorry. Okay.
No, maybe I could just add more. I know this is slightly different from what you just asked, but I just, speaking of all those things, I just want to add one thing. So I think there is one thing that we can learn from the UK, maybe the British society actually, because I think it's about like a diversity, how we can embrace the diverse culture actually, because a lot of people think that Korean dramas are very local and also only just embraced by the local people. And all the Korean cast and stuff, probably you would probably know because I'm talking about Korean drama films. But when it comes to diversity, one of the things that I was really surprised when I just landed in London is how diverse this society is. It was just really different because basically Korean society is such a homogeneous society. So for me, everything was really new to me. Like, when I just moved into London. So probably in terms of making those content like female drama is probably one thing that we can learn from, from the UK, probably the diversity, how we can really embrace those diverse culture in our, content as well.
So perhaps Julie could share her insight into being an entrepreneur.
Well, I think it's all about inspiration. I get so much inspiration whenever I travel, and it's not just about the UK. I mean, I'm very global. I'm a French-trained Korean American Londoner, so I'm very much spanning the globe. And I'm going to echo my panelists' points here, but I think it does go both ways. And I think diversity, but also in every sense, and also equality. Whenever I go to Korea, I have a gay cousin, and he doesn't want to go back to Korea because he doesn't want to be closeted there. So that's a big issue for him and our family. When I go back to Korea and I do business, I often get ignored in the boardroom, and they start talking to my male counterpart who I pay. So there are a lot of issues that I notice, and a lot of things, even the plastic surgery, culture in Korea. Like I go to Korea and everyone says that I'm healthy and natural looking, which means I'm kind of fat and ugly. But so I think that, that I have a love-hate relationship with Korea a lot because I see so many aspects. I'm not Korean enough. I'm not American enough. I'm not British enough. I am straddling so many different cultures in the way I live. But I tend to cherry pick what I love about each culture, and no culture is perfect. Every culture has its faults. But I think that we can just be global citizens at the end of the day and take and learn from all different cultures, whether it's diversity, whether it's political, diplomacy, economic awareness, and equality, and take that to become better global citizens to the world. Yeah.
Lady over there, please.
Thank you. Oh, this is so loud. Thank you all so much for the interesting, very relevant presentation. Yeah, I think the word
Can I just say, I think the word Hallyu wave has been around almost 10 years now, and the waves makes it sound more like it's something that's coming new and something that might just disappear or just go away. And I think we all agree it's about time, as Judy mentioned earlier briefly, that the Korean culture, for its uniqueness, that deserves a space, something more permanent and something more standing amongst the other cultures. So as expertise, I mean, when do you think that timing might be, and what do you think that needs to be done to gain that space?
That's a very good question, and again, very difficult to answer. But by definition, culture are something that is inherited generation by generation, and it's historical elements and set of beliefs that makes you help understand and make sense of the world and make you make a good judgment about what is right or wrong. So culture is a very complex set of norms and values. So given that definition of culture, I agree that Korean cultural wave hasn't achieved the status of culture that is kind of cross-generational and cross-time, and it can be kind of universal. About the part how to achieve that kind of cultural status from Hallyu, that is a very difficult question. But again, I think one of the things that we generally agree that Hallyu, the Korean culture, needs to be converged more with its audiences, and it needs to be more communicative than one-way communication. So that is one thing. And I think it needs to be more cross-generational as well. And I see a very good example of that from the state visit last year, when His Majesty the King hosted state banquet at Buckingham Palace for distinguished guests. He briefly mentioned about the success of K-pop. I think that was very impressive because it shows that when the king says that in the speech, it means that it can be understood and accepted by the audience. And given the composition of the audience that is really varying, it means that Korean culture is becoming more of a cultural phenomenon than at one time a short-lived kind of social phenomenon. So I hope that our participation and enthusiasm and continuous support for the attractiveness of Korean culture can be a critical element for the sustainability of the Korean culture. Thank you.
I think that Korean culture is so popular because it's so different, but also because it's so dynamic. It's always changing. Culture changes through generations and changes every year, changes every single week, and which is what's going to keep it timeless. I always say that today's invention is tomorrow's tradition, and that goes across the board, across all areas of culture. There are always new artists, there are new painters, there are new poets, writers, etc., that are constantly pushing the boundary. And as long as Korean culture stays relevant and stays new and exciting, I think that it's just going to continue to grow and grow, and that this wave doesn't necessarily have to disappear on the shores. It can just, become a tsunami, I guess, and just and become extremely pervasive. And you're seeing this along with food. You can go to Michelin star restaurants, and it doesn't matter if it's an Italian restaurant or French restaurant, whatever, they have something Korean on the menu. It's really, really interesting. I travel all around the world. I eat out all over the world, and I'm constantly surprised that there's kimchi on like a menu in Italy or on a menu in France or something. So it also has to do, I think, also with the quality of the content that's coming out. People love Korean dramas because of the storylines are so incredibly rare and different, as Julie was saying. They're surprising. Hollywood's become quite formulaic. Korea doesn't bother or doesn't mind killing a fan favorite off the show, you know what I mean, or surprising you. It's really, really interesting, and the storylines are quite rare. And so I think as long as Korea keeps churning this type of content out that is very original, and the food and the flavors and the writing and the artists and the dancing, etc., it'll continue to become relevant and to be relevant.
Yeah, from the business perspective, I think if they don't do it, I think they will die out, definitely. So I think a lot of in the business sense, if they don't bring in like new ideas and new trend, no one's gonna buy it. There's no sale, the company goes bankrupt. So the only chance they can stay relevant, because I think the interesting is South Korea is such a small, tiny country. If you try to do business, oh, I'm gonna just target local Korean audience, as one of the question came out, as a young population is basically going down. Going forward, how are we going to survive? Is going abroad and look at other all the panelists here, like basically like targeting not only British but also anyone all around the world, so that they can enjoy it and they can be relevant, and don't shy away from speaking with younger generation. So I guess this panel, like next gen late night, I think it's really thankful to this organization and the director, because this is important to have more opportunities for young generation to speak up, so that all these social problems, they will never be solved if we just stay as same. And the same generation just overtakes everything without listening to others or next generation or global audience. So I hope that the business continues to evolve, just like the trend evolves every year, every day, and that's how we can stay relevant.
I just feel like that was like a closing mark. But anyway, so given, just for me, given that this Korean wave thing is a kind of a spontaneous movement, like I said, we cannot really make the business, invest more in nurturing next generation or something. But basically, we need to convince them it's needed. Basically, we need to make them believe that it will truly enrich their business even further. So that's kind of really important. So I think having this kind of conversation and this kind of discussion is also very important to, showcase that why this is really needed and why this is important. This is very important. And I just believe at the end of the day, it's a creative business and they want to try the new things. So we need more proactive in a younger generation who want to try new things and who want to really, go up against and try those kind of things. And of course, government support will be also very important. So because they can really, put them in the right direction that this is what we want and this will eventually enrich your business as well. So all this kind of, collaborative, like efforts is kind of really needed.
Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, this is all we have time for part one, but fortunately there is part two to this event where we have food and drinks where you can mingle and network with each other. So thank you so much for your thought-provoking questions and also to our wonderful panelists for sharing us your insight and experiences. I'll hand over to our colleague and then we'll move on.
Please give them another big applause for our moderator and speakers. Thank you so much. As you can see from this exhibition room, this is actually about the Oxford English Dictionary. They put 26 Korean words into the dictionary system. And in 2021, they defined Hallyu as the increase in international interest in Korea and its popular culture represented by the global success of Korean music, film, TV, fashion, and food, with the statement that we are all riding the crest of the Korean wave. Indeed, we have recognized, and as we discussed today, this immense international attention towards Korean culture. And I hope today's talk gave us some answers about where are we heading and what can we expect next from Hallyu. Thank you so much, and give them another big applause.